So here's my take on the pool of Bethesda. So in John chapter 5, verses 1 through 7, Jesus is at the pool of Bethesda and he's there to perform a miracle. So when you start that chapter, it goes into the fact that they're there after a Jewish holiday. And then it says there were crowds, so tons of people who are sick, lame or paralyzed, and then blind. And I think it is very easy to kind of read past that if you're not feeling as though you're needing that level of healing because you're not experiencing paralysis or blindness or whatever the case may be. And a lot of times when I read about healings in the Gospels, I just kind of keep reading. And then one day I'm just like reading this passage and God just kind of convicts me. And he's like, whoa, 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 slow down. And I'm like, well, God, you're not talking to me. Like, I don't need this level of healing. And he's like, slow down. And so he says to me, so are there places or points in your life that feel sick, that operate from a place of blindness or darkness? Are there things in your life that are paralyzed or stagnant? And so I personally have struggled with anxiety and depression the bulk of my life. And we look up the definition of sick, is referring to like, physical or mental illness. So the anxiety and depression kind of falls into that category. And then in terms of blindness, there are definitely places in my life that I operate from a place of blindness or from a place of darkness. And then for paralysis, I'm like, yeah, God, there are some places in my life where I'm stagnant and I'm just not making movement or not making progress. And so Jesus was like, well, let's change those words then. Since you don't like blind, lame, and sick, let's change the words so that they suit you. So let's say there were crowds of people who were depressed, operating out of darkness and in a place of stagnation. And I'm like, okay, Jesus, now you're talking to me. I'm going to listen. So he starts to get my attention when he changes those words. And so he enters this place where people are really experiencing these hardships or these ailments. And a lot of times we read past that because we think he's not talking to us because we've been blessed, thankfully, with movement and with sight. But God says, wait a minute, I'm talking about your lifestyle and I'm talking about how you operate. And there's tons of us, crowds of us who operate from a place of darkness, stagnation, and who have some level of mental illness, that he can make well. All right, so Jesus says to me, Bree, what part of your life operates from blindness? What part of your life is stagnant? What part of your life is not well? And of course, for me, I have to answer relationships. And I think everybody answers relationships. But not just romantic relationships, but just relationships with all people. Like, I need to improve my relationships with all people. I feel like I have the kind of personality where you either just love me, or just can't stand me. And there's no in between. And so I run into these like bumps in the road and have these conflicts with people. And I really, I know why, but just an area that I need to work on. And so I'm going to specifically talk about romantic relationships today. But just know, y'all, I'm working on all people. Okay? So the passage says that this guy was sitting at the pool of Bethesda waiting for the waters to bubble so that he can get into the pool for healing. And he sat there for 38 years. And I feel like the emphasis on the amount of time he's there is important, because if God comes in and heals somebody after 38 years, the people who know him, the people who watched him suffer for so long, they get to see this miracle and know the magnitude of it, right? But then also I have to think, okay, Bree, I, started romantically dating when I was 18 and I'm 36 now. So for 18 years, y'all, I've been dating badly. And I could tell you stories of my singleness stories, or like what it was like when I was dating and how badly it went. I can tell you stories of being engaged to men who had different faiths than me. I can tell you stories of somebody almost putting a restraining order on me. Yeah, I swear I ain't crazy. I ain't. It's just I don't do relationships well. I can tell you stories of a divorce that I'm actively going through now. And so God just kind of keeps hitting me like, you're not doing this well. You're not doing this well. Because it's not unfolding the way that God intended. And so when God asks me, what part of your life can we work on? What part of your life have you been stuck and stagnant? What part of your life operates from a place of darkness? 1000%, y'all, my relationships with people, my relationships with men. Okay, this will be short, but it is very important. And it says he's been there for 38 years and Jesus knew it. That is the next statement in John chapter 5, verses 1 through 7. It says, and Jesus knew it. What does that mean? It means he's not surprised, y'all. He is not surprised by our stagnation. He's not surprised that our relationships aren't working well. He's not surprised that we don't know how to do this. He's not surprised that I'm going through a divorce. Like, none of this surprises him. When he saw the man laying at the pool of Bethesda, he knew he had been there for some time, ill, not doing well. So I want you to picture yourself and all of your stuff laying at the pool of Bethesda, and Jesus walks in, and from the first time he looks at you, he knows, oh, you've been there for a long time. You've been stuck for a long time. All right, so the King of all kings is asking him, yo, do you want to get better? Do you want to do this right? And look at what the man says, y'all. He says, I can't. I can't. That's his response to Christ. Now, he didn't know he was talking to Christ, but to Christ. That's his response. And so I think about my relationship that is currently ending. And I remember just the strife and the headache and the sorrow that I experienced, just straight up sorrow, y'all. And I remember crying out to God like over and over and over again. And when Jesus first asked me this question, like, do you want to do this well? You know, my answer, my real straight up truth answer was no. I don't want to do this well. No, what I want is for you to fix this relationship or put me back in this toxic relationship that I was already in. What I want is to just go back to normal. I don't want to learn how to do relationship well. I just want to go back to what I already had for 10 years because I was so used to it. And so when Jesus asked me, do I want to do this well? The answer was no. I also said, but I can't. I can't. Just fix this and put me back where I was at and let me be great in the way that I think relationships and marriage should go. And so when Jesus offered the help, my answer was no. Jesus asks the man laying at the pool of Bethesda, he says, do you want to be made well? And the man's response is, I can't. And then he goes on to explain why he can't. He says, for I have no one to put me into the pool when the water stirs, right? And so I want you to pay attention to what he's telling Jesus. He's saying, for I have no one. And for some of us, we're in a place of singleness, and that's a really, really tough space sometimes because you'll have things that you feel like God is asking you to do. You'll have things that you feel like you want to do, but because you're single, you'll feel like you can't. And so you'll say things like, I would if I had a husband. I would if I had a mate. I would if somebody would come help me. And so this guy is telling Jesus the same thing. He says, I can't be made well. I can't do this right because I don't have anyone to put me into the pool. And so Jesus God recently asked me to launch a ministry for college students. And if you've ever launched a ministry, it's hard, y'all. I don't know how else to say it. It's hard. And it actually happened in the middle of my separation, divorce. These things don't happen overnight, y'all. I'm still in the process, but it happened in the middle of the process. And I remember saying to him, like, I cannot launch a ministry without a husband because I don't care who you are. Ministry just looks better to me. It looks better when it's done with a married couple. And if you really pay attention to who's starting churches and who's launching ministries, it is very rarely done by single women, single black women, y'all. So I'm saying to Jesus, like, I can't, because you took my husband. And this is how I talked to Jesus. I literally told him, like, you took my husband. Um, and so it was a real battle for me because I just felt like I have no one. And now you're asking me to do something well or to be made well. And I can't, because the person that used to make me well is now gone. And then he says, I have no one to put me into the pool when the water bubbles. And so we've taken our trust and our faith and we've put it into people. And people will fail you. They will always fail you. And we've put our trust and our faith into things like a bubbling pool. And so God says, would you take your hope and your faith and your trust and put it in me? Can you just trust me and know that I am more powerful, more capable than the people you waiting to help you, the people you're waiting on to come help you, and more powerful than this pool that you're waiting to bubble. But I couldn't, y'all. Like, I could not get to that place. And I remember one night I was just laying in my prayer closet, just crying, y'all, just crying my eyes out because my marriage was ending and I really didn't know how to process it. And it was really hard for me to make that adjustment from married to single. And I'm just crying out to God, and I'm just crying, like, fix it, Lord, like, just fix it. Please just fix it. And I remember God very softly and gently saying to me, he just simply said, like, Brienne, I am a jealous God, and I cannot help you serve that idol. And if you want to continue to serve that man, you have to do it apart from me. Okay, so let's recap before we get to the best part, y'all. So we have a man laying at the pool of Bethesda, and he is experiencing paralysis, but he's there with crowds of people who are lame, sick, and paralyzed. And Jesus says, slow down when you read that, because I'm talking to you, because you may not be experiencing the physical ailments, but there are definitely parts of your life that are blind or operating from a place of darkness, that are paralyzed or operating from a place of stagnation, and that are not mentally well. So I'm talking to everybody who's experiencing some level of ailment or some level of darkness even, and you need healing. So you also should picture yourself laying beside this pool of Bethesda. And he walks up to this man and he sees him on site. And on site, he knows that he's been laying there for 38 years. And Jesus asked me, how long you been sitting in your mess? And I say, well, Lord, the thing that I struggle with, the thing that keeps me in a place of darkness, the thing that keeps me most stagnant is my relationships. And I've been in a romantic relationship or been dating since I was 18. So that's 18 years, y'all. I've been doing this poorly. 18 years I have not dated well. And since I'm going through a separation and eventually a divorce, I've also not been married well for 18 years. So Jesus walks up to the man and he says, so do you want to be made well? Jesus asks us, do you want to do this well? Do you want me to show you a better way? Do you want to be made well? And the man looks at the Messiah and he says, y'all, he says, I can't. And so often in our life, God, we look at God and say, I can't. We just straight up tell him no. When he asks us, do you want my help? Do you want me to show you how to do this better? We say no, time and time and time again. And then what does the man say? The man says, for I have no one. I have no one to put me into the pool when the water bubbles. And we do the same thing, y'all. When God asked me to launch a college ministry, the first thing I said, because I was going through a separation, I said, wait a minute, but I don't have a husband. How can I launch a ministry without a husband? I can't. And then we start putting our hope in things like a bubbling pool Jesus says, would you take your hope from man? Would you take your faith from physical or material things? Would you take your hope and your faith and your trust, and would you put it in me? So here's my favorite part, y'all. This man is talking directly to the Messiah. His Savior came to find him, and he is sitting face to face with the Messiah. You and I have a direct relationship with God. We can talk with him, we can pray with him, we can spend time in his presence. And when he asks us, do you want to be made well? Do you want me to help you? He asks that because he has the power and the authority to fix it. So that's half of the Pool of Bethesda, y'all. We're going to come up with part 2 a little later, but yeah, we out here.